Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, guys, this is from cs.cmu.edu. Understanding Scientology by Marjorie Wakefield, Chapter 8. The Language of Scientology, ARC, SPs, PTPs, and BTs. I know all but one of these. The language of the totalist environment is characterized by the thought-terminating cliché. The most far-reaching and complex of human problems are compressed into brief, highly reductive, definitive-sounding phrases, easily memorized and easily expressed. These become the start and finish of any ideological analysis. In thought reform, for instance, the phrase bourgeois mentality is used to encompass and critically dismiss ordinarily troublesome concerns like the quest for individual expression, the exploration of alternative ideas, and the search of perspective and balance. Loaded language is a language of non-thought. Thought Reform and the Psychology of Totalism by Robert J. Lifton. Two Scientologists meet on the street. "How you doing?" one asks the other. "Well, to tell you the truth, I've been a bit outrooted because of a PTP with my second dynamic, because of some bypass charge having to do with my mess at her apartment. When I moved in, I gave her an R factor, and I thought we were in ARC about it, ARC. But lately she seems to have gone a bit PTS, so I recommended she see the MAA at the AO to blow some charge and get her ethics in. He gave her a review to FN and VGIs, but she did a roller coaster. So I think there's an SP somewhere on her lines. I tried to audit her myself, but she had a dirty needle and BIs and was acting really 1.1. So I finally sent her to Qual to spot the N-theta on her lines. Other than that, everything's fine." There is not a Scientologist anywhere to whom this paragraph would not make perfect sense. Like a secret code, the language of Scientology helps members to identify and bond with each other, and creates an invincible but effective boundary between the cult and the world outside. It's insulation and isolation. There are many cults who use the loaded language described by Lifton, the language of non-thought. But there is probably no other cult in which the manipulation of the cult member through language is achieved as completely or with as much sophistication as in Scientology. As anyone in the advertising world knows, if you want to control a person's behavior, you must first control their thought. Hubbard did this in Scientology through the prolific propaganda in written bulletins, tapes, and films to which members are constantly exposed. But a more subtle form of thought control was achieved by Hubbard through the creation of a new language, Scientologese, used and understood only within the cult. How is thought restricted by the language in Scientology? In several ways. Many of the new words are formed by changing the part of speech of an existing word, usually from a verb or adjective into a noun. The noun used in Scientology have black and white concrete meanings. There are no shades of gray in the Scientology vocabulary. Scientology makes extensive use of acronyms and abbreviations, but modifiers are almost non-existent. One could probably exist for 10 years in Scientology without ever using an adverb or adjective. Most nouns in Scientology have only one meaning. Gone are the variegated definitions and idiomatic uses of regular English nouns. Many of the terms in Scientology have come from the computer and engineering fields and have precise definitions which leave little to the imagination. When common English words are given a new meaning in Scientology, the older and multiple meanings have been dropped in favor of a single concrete Scientology meaning. Imagine all these years and the alleged Federal Bureau of Investigations and Homeland Security, Department of Justice can't figure all this stuff out, right? Right? Hubbard was fond of transforming verbs, words of action, into more static nouns. Examples: assist, which means to help, becomes unassist. One of the auditing processes of Scientology, e.g., would you like me to give you an assist? The verb to be is turned into a noun in the Scientology word beingness, similarly transformed as doingness, havingness, knowingness, rightness, wrongness, livingness, and isness. The between lives implant, a noun, comes from the English verb to implant. The verb to confront becomes a noun, confront, e.g., doing training routines will increase a person's confront. The verb to motivate becomes a noun in motivator, e.g., Bill pulled in a motivator when he had his accident. To postulate becomes a noun in the Scientology word postulate, e.g., I have a postulate that I will win the lottery. Even the word clear in Scientology has been transformed into a noun from the adjective of the same name. Other Scientology nouns deriving from English verbs and adjectives are basic, fall, rise, secondary, overt, overrun, randomity, processing, read, release, review, and static. As an example of how thought is restricted in the English to Scientology's transformations, the word clear in English had at least 30 different definitions: free of clouds, having no blemishes, free from guilt, passing without contact, making a profit, etc. Yet in Scientology, the word clear has one very concrete meaning: a person who has completed the clearing course in Scientology. Another example is the word release, which in English has 9 different definitions, including to set free, to let loose, to release from an obligation, to be set free from pain, to permit to be issued, etc. But in Scientology, a release refers to one thing: someone who has completed one of the lower levels of Scientology auditing. Acronyms and abbreviations are common in Scientology, again, a way of abbreviating thought. Acronyms can be part of the organization: the SO, Sea Organization; GEO, Guardian's Office; AO, Advanced Organization; ASHO, American St. Hill Organization; CMO, Commodore's Messenger Organization. Or they can have to do with time, e.g., AD, after Dianetics, and BD, before Dianetics. Isn't that the same way that they, like in the Bible, like before Jesus and after or something? You Christian scholars would know, right? You see how he copied him? Allegedly it was him, right? Years in Scientology are numbered in relation to the year 1950, the year the Dianetics book was published. Therefore, 1992 becomes AD 42 in Scientology. The year 1940 becomes BD 10. There are many acronyms that have to do with the technical processes of auditing. Boy, the children must work hard learning all that, huh? Such as VBI's bad indicators, VGI's very good indicators, CS case supervisor, FN floating needle, BPC bypass charge, TA tone arm action, EP and phenomena, TR training routine, and S&D search and discovery, to name a few. Acronyms can refer to things you can be. SP, suppress a person. PTS, potential trouble source. OT, operating Thetan. PC, pre-clear. And HAS, Hubbard Apprentice Scientologist. Or they can refer to things you can have. PTP, present time problem. OW, overt and withhold. 2D, second dynamic. ARC, affinity, reality, and communication. MEST, material things from matter, energy, space, and time. You guys know a lot of people must have worked hard on this stuff, right? An acronym can be something to read. An HCOB, Hubbard Communication Office Bulletin, or HCOPL, Hubbard Communication Office Policy Letter. It can be something you can do as in Q&A, question and answer, or to question a command. That's not allowed, by the way. Or an acronym can be a person, CO, commanding officer. Well, that comes from the military. MAA, Master at Arms, or Ethics Officer. That's kind of funny. You guys know what a Master at Arms is in the military? That's the person who takes care of the ammunition and weapons. DFT, Director of Training. DFP, Director of Processing. Or WOG, Worthy Oriental Gentleman. Meaning anyone not of Scientology. Not a Scientologist, Isn't that like ignoramus, like that he puts that in there, worthy Oriental gentleman? Seriously. Many of the words in Scientology are simply shortened, rendering thought even less necessary than it already was. AC, acknowledgement. Admin, administration. Tech, technical. Qualifications. Com, communication. Cog, cognition. Wait a minute. That reminds me of, what's that? There's this television show where they have the precogs. Anyways, it's related. Invalidation, evaluation, organization, rudiments, R factor, reality factor, sex, security, demonstration, e-meter, electropsychometer. Of the many new words created by Hubbard in Scientology, the majority of them are composed of two words, taken from regular English, but combined to create a new word in Scientology. Some of the completely new words can be traced to their English origins. Examples of some of these new words and their Scientology meanings are aberrate, one who is aberrated. Anaton, a state of being unconscious to some degree. Anchor points, a person's boundaries in space. Alter is, to consciously change something. Analytical mind, the conscious mind which, without the influence of the reactive mind, operates logically. Wouldn't that be the conscious mind? As is, to make something disappear by staring at it for a long time. Awareness of awareness unit, another word for the person. Bad indicators. A person not smiling and not having a floating needle after a session. Between lives area, a word to describe the events that happen between the time a person dies and when he picks up his next body. Bypass charge, emotions re-stimulated during auditing but not discharged. Case gain, progress made by an individual because of auditing. Case supervisor, the person who examines each session done by the auditor and programs the next session. Clay demo, a picture made in clay to demonstrate the learning of a theory. Course, the communication course of Scientology. Lag, a long hesitation in conversation. Line, the imaginary line between two people who are talking together. Covert hostility, a condition of masked anger. Cycle of action, defined by Hubbard as start, change, stop. Degraded being, a person in really bad shape. Destimulate, to calm down the reactive mind. Dirty needle, a certain motion of the needle on the e-meter which is ragged and erratic. Eighth dynamic, the Scientology term for God. Enmeshed, short for interpolated mest, which means anything material which is in a disorganized state. And theta, short for interpolated theta, and means a person or thing that is destructive and upset, like a child, usually referring to someone or something against Scientology. Interpolate, to upset. First dynamic, things having to do with the person himself. They snuff that all the way out, right? Floating needle, a needle on the e-meter that is lazily floating back and forth across the dial. This means that nothing in the reactive mind is activated at the moment. Genetic entity, the identity of the body containing a consciousness of evolution. Itza, a person who in auditing is identifying something. Does that count pedophiles too? Line charge, a prolonged spell of uncontrolled laughter. Mental image pictures, pictures in the mind, memories. Misemotion, any painful or unpleasant emotion. Missed withhold, something bad which a person did that someone else almost found out about. Not is, to make something that exists into nothing. Obnosis, observation of the obvious. Operating thetan, a person minus the reactive mind who has the ability to control the physical universe. How's that working out for all the OT8s? How's that working out? Overt motivator sequence, what happens when a person does something bad, then subconsciously causes something bad to happen to himself. See how they get inside people's minds? Reach and withdraw, a principle in Scientology that something reached for tends to withdraw, and vice versa. Reactive mind. Boy, I called that. The subconscious mind which accounts for illogical behavior in humans according to Dianetic theory. Re-stimulate, to stir up the contents of the reactive mind. Second dynamic, having to do with love, relationships, sex, and marriage. Remember, when children get abused sexually, they're told they're out 2D. Remember that? Yeah. Otherwise known as rape. Sexual abuse. Stable datum, something known to be true that other facts can be based on. Terminal of comparable magnitude, something or someone equal in some quality to another. Theta, the life force, spirit, or soul. See, I just want to add in my personal opinion. I believe spirit and soul are different. And when they're talking about thetans, anyways, I'll talk about that later. Thetan, the person himself, is a spiritual being or soul. Theta trap, any place which attracts people. Third dynamic, having to do with the group. They love that. Third party, the Scientology principle that in any conflict between two people there is a third person that is the real cause of the problem. Can you imagine how insane that is? That's narcissist triangulation right there. Third party. Triangulation, 3. Couldn't make it up, you guys. Time track. The recorded history of a person's lives back to the beginning of time. Tone arm, one of the dials on the e-meter, which shows how much charge has been erased in the session. Tone scale, a scale of emotions in Scientology. Two-way comm, conversation between two people. Unmock, to destroy or make nothing of something. Upstat, someone who has high statistics, the opposite of downstat. Yeah, like toddlers, you guys. Don't forget toddlers need to be upstat as well. It's a fact. Uptone, someone who is at a high emotional tone level, the opposite of downtone. I think he took that from Hermetic principles. But without going too deep right now, all these inversions originate from the Hermetic principles, which the diabolical, the evil, the devilish, the demonic, the Crowleyans, they all believe in inversions. That's how they are able to dominate and stay in control. Like death would be like, how do I say this? Well, like sacrifice, like a blood sacrifice would be like one of the lowest vibratory things that you can do. Anyways, very good indicators. Happens after an auditing session when the pre-clear is smiling and has a floating needle. These are just a few of the new words in Scientology. The final category of language in Scientology has to do with words that are appropriated directly from English, but which are given new meanings within the framework of Scientology. Again, although the original word in English may have had a variety of meanings and shades of meaning, the new Scientology meanings will be unique and concrete. The word affinity in English can refer to either a physical or an emotional closeness. In Scientology, affinity is used to replace the word love with its many connotations. The word love is not used in Scientology. Affinity means a willingness to be close to and share the same space with, or a liking for someone. Affinity is also one of the components of the ARC triangle. Together with reality and communication, the theory in Scientology is that if any one of the 3 corners of the triangle, by the way, that's a very magical thing right there. The Trinity. Anyone ever heard of the Trinity? Of the triangle is increased affinity, reality, or communication. The result will be greater, ARC, or understanding. In English, the word agreement can have many meanings, such as the act of agreeing, an understanding, or a contract. In Scientology, the word means the agreement of 2 or more people about reality, which is said to exist only when there is agreement that it exists. In English, an auditor is one who goes over the books and finances of an organization. In Scientology, the meaning is quite different. A Scientology auditor is one who delivers the processes of auditing to a pre-clear, like a child. The Scientology version of a counselor. Interrogator. To a person outside of Scientology, the bank is a place one goes for money. In Scientology, the word bank is a slang term for the reactive mind. I think of that as the conscious mind. It is commonly used as an adjective meaning irrational or unpleasant, as the children are acting really banky today. There used to be a sport in England called bull baiting, in which several dogs would tease or attack a bull. Isn't that great? Hubbard appropriated this term for a quite different purpose. Bull baiting in Scientology refers to the training routine drill in which one person, like a child, tries to provoke another to react while the person being provoked attempts to maintain a perfect unblinking stare. Go check out Jesse Prince and Stacy Brooks did like a whole video on bull baiting. It's really good if you want to go see what it's about. Before Scientology, a button was something used to hold a shirt together. The word button in Scientology refers to any words or ideas which cause a person to react or which make him uncomfortable. For example, a short person might have a button on being short, a fat person a button on being fat. It is the purpose of the drill called TRO, bull baited, to locate and flatten a person's buttons. Wouldn't that be state evidence right there, you guys? That children are forced to do this? And I went over this somewhere, over like various TRs that children are doing right now. Under duress, under coercion. A case may have meant many things before Scientology. A legal argument, a person being treated by a social worker, a container in which to carry something, or a full box of beers. But in Scientology, a case refers to one thing, a person's reactive mind, which I think of as a conscious mind, which has been restimulated. A person undergoing Scientology auditing is frequently instructed not to discuss your case with anyone. Somehow with all the isolation and insulation is how they are able to control people so well with the blackmail material. Because I'm trying to figure out why a person would not discuss their case with anyone. I suppose if people, to include children, would talk about their cases with other people, then the blackmail material would dilute in power. If you guys follow what I'm saying? If everybody knows what you're talking about in there, how are they going to be able to use it for blackmail? Just a thought. A chain in English can be either a series of connected links or a more symbolic series of connected circumstances or events. But in Scientology, a chain has to do with a group of pictures in the reactive mind which have in common some physical characteristic, e.g., today we will audit your stomach pains chain. Charge in English can have a variety of meanings. What one does with a credit card to add an electrical current to. To ask is a price or fee. To attack or move forward. To entrust with the care of someone, to make an accusation, or the instruction or verdict by a jury. In Scientology, however, charge refers to the harmful energy or force. Sounds very magical, you guys. Sounds magical. Stored in the reactive mind. Different people can have charge on different items or subjects. E.g., he has a lot of charge on women. Ethics is a complicated subject in the regular world. It is defined as the study of standards of conduct and moral judgment. But in Scientology, ethics refers to the disciplinary branch of the organization and to the policies of Hubbard, allegedly, which govern the activities of this branch. Most Scientologists have a certain amount of fear of ethics, including children. An example of its use would be if you don't get your stats up, you will be sent to ethics. I think that's why we see them running around like little, I don't know, squirrels or hamsters on Thursday. The word dynamic is an example of an adjective turned into a noun. Dynamic in English is used as the opposite of static. But dynamic in Scientology refers to 8 arbitrary divisions of life, devised by Hubbard, allegedly. For example, the first dynamic refers to the person himself, the second dynamic to the sexual relationship, marriage, and family, the third dynamic refers to the group, etc. That's where they invert, you guys. Although the word can be used as a noun in English, the meaning is somewhat different. The word static is also altered from adjective into noun in Scientology, where static refers to the thetan or soul. The static in Scientology is defined as being without mass, without wavelength, without time, and without position. Oh, how profound. Indicators in Scientology refer to specific characteristics of the pre-clear during auditing, like a child. Whether he is smiling, the color of his skin, whether he has good eye contact. In Scientology, there can be good indicators, GIs, very good indicators, VGIs, bad indicators, BIs, or very bad indicators, VBIs. So it kind of sounds like if you're getting auditing, your life depends on what that needle does. And we have all heard from a lot of the former Scientologists what you do to make the needle float. I'm not going to say here. You guys should know by now how to do that. A process in Scientology refers to a specific auditing action to be done on a pre-clear. Like a child. All the children going up the bridge, they're all pre-clears, right? You guys know that? So when they're anytime, and I mean, there's the other one? You got up the bridge, going up the bridge, and then the OT levels. I believe a lot of the pre-clears are children. Raw meat in Scientology is not something that one might cook for dinner. Rather, the term refers to the person coming in the front door who has never before had Scientology auditing and who is a prospect for Scientology services. The word reality undergoes an interesting transformation in Scientology from a word meaning that which is in English reality. In Scientology comes to mean that which is agreed upon. In other words, in Scientology, unless there is an agreement that something exists, it does not exist. Like laws. All reality, according to Scientology, has been created by agreement. The physical universe exists only because at some point in the past, Thetans agreed together that it existed. According to Scientology theory, as soon as Thetans agree together that it no longer exists, then it will cease to exist. That's actually very interesting. I mean, that's like reality and illusion. I mean, that's really how our whole entire world exists. And I'm not going to go into it now, but I have to agree with that. A lock in English can be something which keeps a door from being opened. In Scientology, the word lock refers to a somewhat painful emotional experience which does not, however, contain actual physical pain or unconsciousness. A terminal to most people might mean the display component of a computer or a Greyhound bus station, but to a Scientologist, a terminal refers to a person at a particular spot or doing a particular job. The word can be loosely used to mean simply a person, e.g., go and give this letter to the appropriate terminal. Other words that have a specific Scientology meaning are ally, someone who is not really your friend in Scientology. That's funny. I guess that'd be an inversion, because normally an ally would be like someone who's on your side or your friend, right? Circuit, Scientology circuit. In Scientology, this refers only to those in your head. Mass, mental entities having actual physical mass. Roller coaster, somebody whose emotional condition goes up and down, like Hubbard or Miscavige or Rinder. Rudiments, asking a person at the beginning of auditing if they have any ARC breaks, upsets, present time problems, or miss withholds. That's how they're getting the blackmail, you guys see? That's how they're getting the blackmail. If so, then the person has outroads, which must be corrected before auditing can begin. Session refers to the precise period of time during which auditing takes place. Significance: the phrase is embedded in the person's reactive mind as a result of implants. Also, the idea learned in a course of study. Can't help but think it comes from, allegedly, from a paranoid guy, right? That you got implants in your head. Source refers to Hubbard. Can you guys believe the audacity? He's calling himself God right here. He's calling himself God. Makes me sick. The name by which he is most commonly known in Scientology. So Hubbard's all the source. The black-toothed, pot-bellied, loser scum, drug-using, failed military pervert who believes kissing 7-year-olds are okay. He's called Source. And I'm not that well read when it comes to spiritual books. I know a little, but Source means God. I mean, it's just another word people use for God. I would venture to use that word a lot more than I use God, because I'm not, in any kind of like religious dogma, doctrine. Sympathy, a negative trait in Scientology. That's the inversion, you guys. How do you turn somebody into a reptile? Tell them no sympathy. Sympathy, a negative trait in Scientology, where one is trained to not feel sympathy for anyone. They're creating like reptiles. The reptilian brains. Sick. Understanding in Scientology consists of 3 things: affinity, reality, and communication, which Hubbard had none of. Increasing any of these 3 results in increased understanding. Conversely, lowering either of the 3 results in decreased understanding. Valence is any identity that the person happens to be in at the time. Like a mood. A person can have many valences, e.g., whenever she is around her mother, she goes into the valence of her father. Unreal. That just means mood. One of the most difficult things about leaving Scientology is the problem of what to do about the language. Many ex-members report problems of thinking and even dreaming in Scientologies for months and sometimes years after physically leaving the cult. This can also pose a problem for someone trying to counsel a recent defector from Scientology. Not knowing the language can put the counselor at a disadvantage. They need specialists in this, I believe. And prevent the counselee from feeling really understood. The same holds true for family members trying to communicate with someone newly out of Scientology. Because they don't speak or understand the language, they are unable to reach the person they are trying so hard to help. It's my opinion, that the FBI, the Homeland Security, Department of Justice, and all of these agencies, to include LAPD, should all be familiar with all of these terms. All of it. All of it. All of it. Manipulation of language is a very real and powerful tool in the hands of the cult Illuminati leader. By controlling language, the cult leader can control the thoughts, and therefore the lives of those who have strayed into his fold. Legally, there is nothing wrong with a man like Hubbard manipulating the thoughts and minds of others for the express purpose of exploiting them for his own profit. Allegedly, it's just him. Mental rape is not a crime. Scientology, Hubbard once claimed, is the only game in the universe where everybody wins. The victims of Scientology know better. Okay, you guys, I had to Google it. For some weird reason, I have a hard time remembering the name of this show, and I did watch it. And it's about, I'm not the best at explaining it because it's kind of deep. But it was about young children that had special abilities. And the main one right here, they make her look really evil. She wasn't really evil the way I looked at it, but they had in this show, it was about these kids that were, the way I looked at it, they were under mind control, or they took these children that had all these like ESP and, special abilities, and they used them to their own advantage. And I remember in there they had a group called the Precogs. But they also had in Fringe, which Fringe is one of my favorite television shows of all time, they also had Precogs in there as well. So it's just interesting that, isn't it funny how allegedly LRH was talking about COG? I'm just saying. I'll put a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.